Hey everybody, it's Cheyenne and welcome back to my channel. Is it kind of weird that I do all my dental videos by my bed? I don't know, I feel like it's maybe kind of weird. But like, I film in front of this big old window and the light's just really good right here, but it might be kind of odd. But anywho, we're gonna do a video today about suctioning. Woo! So, I have all these different kinds of suctions that you will use as a dental assistant. And we're just gonna go over some of them, actually all of them, and just different placements inside the mouth that might help. Or I did see some comments of people saying that they suck up the tongue or the cheek, which is very common. Don't worry about that. It happens all the time. I still do it to this day. And a lot of the times it's not the assistant's fault, it's just the patient. The patient might have a crazy tongue, or, you know, also, as you get older, or you'll see the older the patient, the looser the tissue is inside the mouth. So like their cheek tissue is really loose, their gum tissue, things like that. So it's easy to suck it up. So don't worry about that. But anywho, we're just gonna go over the suctions and how to use them. So this is a suction you'll use all the time. This is called a Saliva Injector. You'll bend it like this to make it a little bit easier to use inside the mouth. But of course, this is the only suction that your patient can close around. And these are all clean, so I'll just demonstrate. So these are the only suction that your patient will close around, like so, to help get the saliva out of there. You do not want them closing around your high speed, because the filters and stuff like that, I just wouldn't do it. Sometimes they can close around it and something could come up. So this is the only one that I recommend them closing around. But you'll still see that a lot of patients want to close around this puppy. I don't know why, they just do. But anyway, so that's your saliva injector, pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes you'll kind of hook it like this, and your dentist will have you hook their cheek and just leave it there, kind of like so. And it will just kind of sit there during the procedure, or root canals to help, you know, get the saliva out of there, especially under a rubber dam. You'll see dentists hook this under like that, so it's staying in there and sucking out the saliva under the rubber dam during the root canal. Very common. All right, so your next one, of course, is your HVE. So you're gonna use this every procedure except for extractions, but fillings, root canals, crown preps, all that good stuff. So we have our little typerdont here. And I'm just going to show you some basic ways to place your suction. Now, every dentist is a little bit different. I've worked for dentists, they want that suction right up in there. And then some dentists are like, get out of my way with the suction. So everyone's a little bit different, but I'm just going to show you some basic little techniques. So the first thing you'll notice is this little hole here. So this little hole is always what goes in the patient's mouth. I've seen assistants accidentally like put it in like this, and then they're using this end of the mouth. No, you always want this hole in the mouth. It just creates extra suction and another hole for stuff to go into. So you always want that part in the mouth. So let's say you're doing a filling on this tooth here, okay? So you're the assistant, you're sitting kind of like this, and the patient's down here, we'll say. The doctor's over here. So your suction, I always just kind of hold it right up against the tooth in front of it or behind it, depending on where the doctor is with the handpiece. But usually I just kind of latch it onto the tooth, or rest it onto the tooth behind the tooth, or a couple teeth behind it, just so you're able to collect any debris that might come off. Because if you're replacing old fillings, those fillings are going to come out, especially amalgam. It can create kind of a mess. So I always just kind of hook it onto a tooth. And it's really nice if you can anchor it onto a tooth to kind of hold it in place. It makes it easier to hold. Or you could drop it down here and sit below the tooth, which is also an option. You'll kind of learn how your dentist is and where his placement is. A lot of dentists, you know, they require a lot of space. Okay, they're taking up this whole area and you're trying to squeeze in there with your suction. So whatever's easier, but as long as this part is in the mouth, this whole part, and this part's curved up. Now the reason there's this little curve in here is because if they're working on like this front tooth, you can put that piece up against the tooth like so. Especially with rinsing, when they rinse off like the itch and things like that, you want that up against the tooth, okay? Or you can do it behind it if there's something behind the tooth. But yeah, you usually want to anchor onto a tooth like so. Sorry, I'm trying to do this like backwards because in the camera it's backwards. But like this. And then if he was working on the lower, you would do the same. I usually just put it down here like so, or back here. And you can move your suction around. If you start to see like some water puddle up, you can move it over here, suck it up. You know, things like that. And then also if you're doing like interior fillings, I'll usually go kind of like this while he's working on like these, you know, 24, 25. Kind of go like this, and you can curve this way. So this end is facing towards the tooth. And then I'll go up front here, move the cheek if he's gonna rinse, so I can get the rinsing, okay? So with their tongue and their cheek tissue, as long as you just keep this part, you know, try to keep this part towards the teeth and not the cheek, this small part towards the teeth, not the cheek. And then you can move their tongue out of the way, especially these posterior ones. They're gonna want you to hold the tongue out of the way, kind of like this. So you're keeping the tongue back here while they're working on these. So you definitely wanna do that in the lowers too. But as long as you just have this facing the tooth and not the cheek area, but it's gonna happen. You're gonna suck up a cheek, you're gonna suck up a tongue, and that's all okay, it happens. Like I said, older patients, they have looser tissue, or kids have very active tongues. That's okay, don't be embarrassed. It happens all the time. So moving on to surgical sections. So this is a normal surgical section. It's just a little bit different, of course, in the HVE, and it has a smaller hole because you're suctioning out blood. And then also when you remove a tooth, you have to be careful, especially if it's an interior tooth. You don't want to be grabbing the sinus or, you know, removing blood clots or anything like that. So that's why you have this. We also have this one here. This one is a little bit smaller, as you can see. You can use these during surgical extractions as well. It depends on your dentist. But these also are called endo sections. So the smallest ones are gonna be used for endo mostly, because when they have the rubber dam on and they're rinsing the tooth out or irrigating the tooth, you're gonna put this right in the tooth so you can get the irrigation so it doesn't go into the patient's mouth. Or some dentists do like it for surgical reasons, especially interior teeth, because when you're suctioning out the blood or they're irrigating the socket, they want less suction, so there's no like pulling of a sinus by accident or pulling of a blood clot out. So again, we'll do the surgical one. Say he's extracting, you know, we're extracting number 8 right here, this guy. So you use your suction. The doctor is trying to loosen up this tooth. He has like, you know, the forceps on it. He's just kind of wiggling it out. I use my suction, just kind of suck at the gum line. Just kind of dab it. And you don't leave your surgical suction in the mouth at all times, okay? I leave it outside the mouth while he's doing the extraction. And then as blood forms or comes out, then I will bring it in and just kind of tap around the gum in the tooth area. And then once he removes the tooth, I will wait for him to grab irrigation. We'll say, actually, this has an opening down here. This would be easier. So say the tooth's out, he's irrigating. I'll bring my irrigation in, usually from the back like this, and then he'll irrigate it and I'll just suck out like that. And then of course you grab cotton and you put it there and have the patient bite down. So surgical section's a little bit different because it's not in there at all times. Usually during an extraction, the patient's able to swallow because they're able to swallow because their mouth isn't really, it's propped open, but it's a little bit different than a filling. But I will use my saliva injector during extraction and kind of just pop it back there. Or you can even use this sometimes if it's not all gross. I'll put it back there and just suck up the pool of spit that's forming or saliva. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The endo one is usually just used for irrigation, can be used for surgical extractions. Oh, one more thing. So during an extraction, so if it's just a normal extraction and that means they're not using a handpiece, they're just using forceps, you'll use your extraction suction. But if it moves to surgical, which means they're gonna use a handpiece to section the tooth or cut it in half to make it easier for extraction. You'll use your HVE again, because as soon as there's water being used with a handpiece, you'll want this because it will suck out more of the water. If you just had this in there, it's not gonna do a lot of suction, okay? They're gonna be filling up with bloody water, and that's not what you want. So you wanna swap back to this if they're using a surgical handpiece to section a tooth. Now again, all dentists are different. Your dentist might not like that, I don't know. But the ones I've worked with, that's usually what they like. All right, well, I hope this video was helpful for suctioning. I wish I could do this in my office, but I just can't. So I try to do these videos at home, and I hope they're helpful. But anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.